commence
Thank you,
your
Mr. Speaker.
presentation.
Mr. Speaker, allow me on behalf of the government, MPs, to wish our Vice President a very happy birthday, as well as our sitting member of Parliament, Minister Ramson, that is being celebrated today. Mr. Speaker, allow me to genuinely and wholeheartedly thank the Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashley Singh, and his dedicated team at the Ministry of Finance for presenting us with yet another excellent fiscal plan. Budget 2023, even before I want to start this, Mr. Speaker, I know that my friend, the Honorable Sherrod Duncan, has been out of the House for over a year, but if we can control the flatulence that keeps coming out his mouth, that would be very helpful. Budget 2023 is comprehensive, it's brilliant, and even though the private sector and many other sections, and I want the honorable member who spoke just before me to hear this, that the National Shows Council recognized as the authority, the legal authority to deal with the Amerindians and indigenous peoples of this country, commended this budget. Many other sections of society have lauded its contents. We know that the main opposition has nothing but criticisms to offer. It is what they do. Smear everything good because they are incapable of doing it themselves. Instead of attempting to make any meaningful contributions to national development, they have and will come to this House heavily armed with their untruths and misinformation to mislead the Guyanese people. Mr. Speaker, the arguments that we will hear from the APNU AFC MPs throughout these debates will be nothing but laughable, mediocre, and very much predictable because, quite frankly, they keep clutching at the same exhausted straws. Mr. Speaker, I want to address the speaker just before me, and then I will address the other speakers who came for the day. The honorable member, Mr. Cox, said that he was told by me that I did not know that he was the one who applied for a scholarship. That is in fact so, because you know what, Mr. Speaker, in 2021, when the Ministry of Public Service selected those persons for the Gold Scholarship, every single person who applied from Region 1 was given a Gold Scholarship. So if he wasn't there, Mr. Speaker, I can't do anything about it. Secondly, my cell phone number is on my Facebook page, available to all Guyanese. So it's not just that Mr. Cox can call me and get through. Any Guyanese can call me and get through. And that is how our government has operated from August 2nd to now, and we will continue to do so. Mr. Speaker, what the honorable member may or may not know is that there is another honorable member sitting on the opposition side of this House who is also granted a Gold Scholarship, who I did not have contact with. That is how inclusive this government is. Whether they're entitled or not, you don't come here and use it as a weapon against the government.
What are you using it as? In fact, you have to mention somebody else in the House who got it. What are you using it?
Mr. Speaker, I will turn my attention to another issue raised about the budget being increased by 40%. Yes, the budget was increased by 40%. But you know what, Mr. Speaker, like every single year and the last 3 budgets that we have passed, they never looked at it, they never bothered to understand it, because the 2 major projects is what has caused the increase in the budget, and that is the Gas to Shore project and the Damarara Harbor Bridge. When those projects are off the ground and completed, the budget will reduce. But they don't understand that because they haven't taken the time to look at it properly. The largest The largest allocations, Mr. Speaker, in this budget is given to the Ministry of Education that takes care of national training and development in this country for students, for people with tertiary, going for tertiary education. That is our human capital. Oh yes, our most valued asset. The Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Housing, the Ministry of Public Works, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Human Services, those have the largest allocations and they're all people-centered. But you know what, Mr. Speaker? They know that. But because they cannot come back with anything better, they're going to come with discrimination, racism, lack of inclusion.
Get government price angry.
Passion. What you call passion.
There's a difference between passion and border market.
Passion.
Yes. But you see, you see, opposition leader, I like the fact that you're smiling so much because I see you looking around at your own members and wondering if they're going to stab you in the back.
Got truth.
With a seriousness. Mr. Speaker. Oh, because let's get it out. Because the Honorable Amanda Desir Walton came and said, govern the country. We on this side of the house, we are good. We have our house in order. But you know what? You don't have your house in order. Because probably you were looked at suspiciously too by the leader of the opposition. Mr. Speaker, the first speaker for the opposition, the Honorable Nima Flubes, a resident of Mocha, and I am responsible on the government side for Mocha, and I visit Mocha every week. And I would like to say this publicly. Every single time that I have entered Mocha, I have had a very warm welcome from all of the residents of Mocha. They are beautiful people. And I do believe that the kind of welcome that His Excellency had on his outreach is causing so much ruckus in the opposition side of things that they have to run around erratic as ever. This morning, the honorable member said words like erratic and so on, but by the honorable member's conduct inside of Mocha and inside of this house is the very definition of erratic. Because you know what, Mr. Speaker? She said, who saw me with a cutlass? There is a video of the honorable member wielding a cutlass in there. What is more, Mr. Speaker? What is more, Mr. Speaker? The honorable member that went on social media and cried and put on tears and so on, just for political gimmicks. The honorable member on a post made on the 3rd of December 2022 for her Facebook post. Let me put on notice the Dunce Tug, T-U-G, crew that running around in Mocha Arcadia community, keeping meetings and sending out threats. No dunce will control our village. No needy people that can be bought for a few shillings, C-H-I-L-L-I-N-G-S, instead of S-H-I-L-L-I-N-G-S, will control our village. And every square inch of resources that belong to the community will be inherited by the people of Mocha Arcadia. Mr. Speaker, I was at a meeting there, but you know what? This wasn't referring to me. This was referring to residents of Mocha, and they reacted. So when the honorable member wants to come here and feign concern and compassion for people in Mocha, the very same member on one of my visits down at the squatting area with the Ministry of Housing staff to look at the squatting area and whether it could be regularized. This is different from KNView. The honorable member and the NDC chairman came running there. And you know what? They were trying to get those people who have been living there for years out of Mocha. Out of Mocha. So the feigned concern and compassion for people.
Honorable Minister, I trust that is dated too, so you could leave a copy of your display with us.
Mr. Speaker, the issue with the squatters at Cane View was dealt with in depth by the Ministry of Housing. In depth by the Ministry of Housing. And, Mr. Speaker, all measures were taken. The majority of the persons were given a home, they were given compensation. The persons who refused to move were offered a home by the government. Mr. Speaker, this was an opportunity that the opposition decided that they could milk it for all they can get for political gimmicks. Because you know why, Mr. Speaker? They can't take the progress of this government. They can't take it. Mr. Speaker, this is an area that is government reserve. So it's an illegal area. It's an area that you're squatting on, you don't own it. Now, the offer was made by the Ministry of Housing, and that is a fact, to have legal ownership of a home. But you know what, Mr. Speaker? I have no doubt that there were elements in this room on the other side that told people they shouldn't take it because this is ancestral lands. Mr. Speaker, I do my homework too when I have to work in a community. I do my homework as well. And it's not for politics, it is to ensure that there is development in that community as we intend it from this government.
First time you in government, you never know what government do. First time you're in government.
As a matter of fact, no. As a lawyer, I entered Mocha several times. And I had clients in Mocha. But you wouldn't know about that. No. They were talking about, Mr. Speaker, the first speaker was talking about on feeling and on a part. You love my name, don't you? You like my name clearly. Keep calling my name, it's okay. You unfeelingly and a part. Mr. Speaker, they talk about a love for public servants. The love for public servants. But they unfeelingly and unapologetically removed the tax-free bonus from the discipline services. Removed it. Removed it. Call it a bribe. Removed the Because We Care cash grant. And then the honorable member stands there and says, well, you know, I commend the Because We Care cash grant moving to $40,000, but we need to do more. Mr. Speaker, they took it away altogether. How can you believe people who discredit themselves by standing there in their own words discrediting them? How can you believe that? As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, as a matter of fact, this document here that we have, the APNU AFC 2015 manifesto, from beginning to end of their vision, from beginning to end, discredits them completely because nothing was done, no promise was honored in this manifesto. Just like you talked about, just like you talked about your competency as a shadow minister of foreign affairs, and they couldn't even use you when they went overseas. Oh my. Just as well, Honorable Member Desir, when you stand there and you talk about discrimination for 25 minutes and lack of inclusion and racism, but you want to purportedly, you want to and allegedly, you practice domestic violence. Speaker, the government, since assuming office on August 2nd, 2020, have all, and as a matter of fact, even before, we have had a track record of caring for all Guyanese well-being. The public servants inclusive. Because you know what? Every year, an increase of salary was given, no matter the state of finances. And we didn't always have oil money, Mr. Speaker, but an increase was always given. In 2020, a one-off bonus was given, a one-off cash grant was given of $25,000 to each public servant. In 2021, a salary increase of 7% was given. If you don't like it, give it up. In 2022, an 8% increase was given to public servants. But, Mr. Speaker, what the opposition does not understand, and I think they will never understand it because they don't know how to manage economically the purse of the country, is that when you are giving a salary increase for thousands of persons, you're talking over 60,000 people in the public sector, you have to talk about sustainability. So it will gradually increase. But you know what, Mr. Speaker? They may have given increases, and yes, public servants are entitled to that because they work. But what else have they done in terms of putting money in the pockets of public servants? They removed the cash grant. Every public servant who has a child benefited from that Because We Care cash grant. That's money going directly into their pockets. Every public servant benefited from the COVID cash, the COVID per household cash grant. Every public servant benefited from the programs. Housing, public servants benefited from. I know personally 3 disciplinary services persons who called to thank me because they applied since between 2015 and 2020 and was never given a house, but given by the Ministry of Housing in 2022. They cried because basic home ownership is necessary. Oh, is it like the live van that had the flash drive during the rigging of the elections? That the elements over there might have orchestrated? Some who wanted to put their names on the declaration as well? Mr. Speaker, you know, the Vice President gave a live, and clearly the Honorable Member gave a live. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Member, Ms. Desire, clearly listened to the live because she came here and said the Vice President wanted to work a reverse psychology on her, and I guess it worked. But you know what? Her brain is so wired to talk racism and discrimination. But I'll talk about PSM right now. Mr. Speaker, I believe the issue of racism and discrimination should be dealt with, as we have always done, transparently, and it should be dealt with publicly. Thank you. The total number of gold scholarships awarded in 2021 was 6,000. The total number of gold scholarships awarded to Afro-Guyanese, 2,558, 42.6%. The total number of gold scholarships awarded in 2022, 7,410. Total number of gold scholarships awarded to Afro-Guyanese, 3,430, 46.3%. The Ministry of Public Service, percentage of Afro-Guyanese working there, 69.5%, and this is replicated across the entire public service, Mr. Speaker. All the programs and policies of this government will reflect, and if not even better percentages, to show our inclusiveness of all Guyanese. All Guyanese. And you know, the Honorable Member as well, Mr. Cox, said that if he didn't call me, he doesn't know how other persons in the region will get to me. Do you know, Mr. Speaker, when I was able to speak with Mr. Cox, it was on an outreach at Region 1, when ordinary Guyanese from Region 1 were at that outreach, and he was one of them sitting there, and I spoke with him as well. And that is public. The Department of Public Information was there. They would have covered that.
I can't imagine you have a staff ministry to do proper work. This is it. This is it. I thought because the worst we can do was you know.
As expected, Mr. Speaker, they will come to this House professing their deep concern and profound love and care for the public servants. They will criticize the government for not giving public servants 50 to 100% salary increases if they could. Mr. Speaker, believe it or not, these are the same people who blatantly disregarded their promises to public servants, giving themselves first after entering office, 50% increase in their salary, and then they turn to the Guyanese people. That is the love that they had for public servants. That is the love that they had for public servants. Mr. Speaker, we are not a government that comes to the people with false promises and froth in our mouth. So for now, in addition to the gradual salary increases year after year, we will also support other means. We will also support other means of giving disposable income. As you know, Mr. Speaker, there was a promise made, and there was a commitment made, rather, by the Minister of Finance in the 2022 budget to look at the disparities in salaries in certain categories of workers in the public service. That commenced at the end of 2022, Mr. Speaker, with the disciplinary services and the healthcare workers, and His Excellency would have made an announcement, and the percentages were given. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is being looked at right now, and it will go across the public sector gradually as we go along, Mr. Speaker. That was a vision never had by the people who said that they care so much about public servants. Mr. Speaker, an additional $2.1 billion to fund the National School Feeding Program is given. That is the children with warm meals. We have also invested billions in an attempt to cushion the rising cost of living, which is not unique to Guyana. Mr. Speaker, I want to address this matter of cost of living. This is an imported cost of living. The rest of the world is facing this. But you know what, Mr. Speaker? In 2015, it was a deliberate act of inflation when they put on the backs of all ordinary Guyanese more than 200 taxes. More than 200 taxes. They deliberately did that. While this is imported and not out of our control, they deliberately did that. And they profess their love for all Guyanese.
Inflation was 0.9. 0.9.
Mr. Speaker, when we commit to developing the lives of our people, we don't mean that this will be done in a vacuum and in a manner that is singular and short-sighted. I believe it is as early as primary school that we were taught not to put all of our eggs in one basket. This is why when this government speaks of the development of public servants and the advancement of all Guyanese, we do not do that in a myopic and visionless way. While we continue to raise salaries incrementally, we are also focusing on making the lives easier for all Guyanese across every sector, be it providing improved access to housing and water or delivering increased opportunities for academic and skills development. When we act in a manner that will comprehensively and holistically improve the lives of every man, woman, and child across every region and within every community. Despite all the national accomplishments, our beloved APNU AFC members will still come to this House and shamelessly try to criticize us for anything and everything, including the disparity in public servant salaries and the waiting time for new public servants to receive their salaries. As has become predictable, the APNU AFC MPs will come to this House and complain about everything offering no sensible solution to any problem that Guyanese will face. Mr. Speaker, my realization that the main opposition is truly barefaced and conscienceless came after they started hurling criticisms at our scholarship policies, including gold, which continues to see thousands of Guyanese. And, Mr. Speaker, with the $1.8 billion allocated in this year's budget, we will surpass the target of 20,000 scholarships in 2023, 2 years early. So, Mr. Speaker, by 2025, we would have substantially increased the number from 20,000 to another. Promise delivered. Mr. Speaker, PSM scholarship, the largest scholarship grant is given to the University of Guyana. The largest scholarship grant is given to the University of Guyana. So it is boggling to me that somebody would come here and say, oh, you come to say that you promised to give UG free and you don't do it yet. Mr. Speaker, our plan was a 5-year plan. It wasn't a no plan like what they had. Mr. Speaker, the University of Guyana will be free to Guyanese. It will become free before 2025. In the meanwhile, scholarships are offered to Guyanese, ordinary Guyanese, to have the opportunity to go to the University of Guyana so that they may enhance their skills to fill the gaps that is so needed in the public sector. And that is what PSM would do for human capacity building. Could you act like a leader and not be like a little league man? Mr. Speaker, there is some noise emanating from the leader of the opposition seat, but I find it, and you know, Mr. Speaker, I'm not even making this up. You know I'm not even making this up. This is a gentleman who finds that a handshake is a problem. This is a gentleman who finds shaking the president's hand a problem. Mr. Speaker, our government believes unwaveringly in the concept of one Guyana. This is why His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali was so keen on literally extending a hand of friendship to the likes of the Honorable Opposition Leader Aubrey Norton. But, Mr. Speaker, while we were disappointed that we were in no way surprised by the APNU AFC's reaction to our olive branch, we cannot expect a party that is so severely fractured from within to heal a nation that they actively tried to break. And let us not forget that people who have deep-seated beliefs and biases, that more than 40% of our entire population are people who are mentally lazy. Mr. Speaker, as we will recall, the interview held with the honorable member Amanza Walton Desir that who she presumes to be the supporters of the PPP, and since we democratically won the elections, we have the majority, and since that means that it includes all ethnicities in Guyana, it is most ludicrous that you can possibly call these people mentally lazy. Possibly, and stand there assuming a feigned demeanor of care and compassion for Guyanese. And then tried through many statements, and a very blunt statement, and so many others coming out to say, that is not what I meant. It was being misconstrued. Mr. Speaker, it was an insult. It was a total insult to our people, a total insult to our Guyanese people.
Honorable Minister, you will need an extension to continue, so you can conclude.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the honourable member be given 5 minutes to conclude.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Singh. Minister, you may continue towards your conclusion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For 2022, a total of... Let's hear of the awardees of the Gold Scholarship as we go along. 167 awardees were from Region 1 in 2022, 558 from Region 2, 1,429 from Region 3, 3,090 from Region 4, 635 from Region 5, 894 from Region 6, 191 from Region 7, 46 from Region 8, 143 from Region 9, and 527 from Region 10. Mr. Speaker, the PPPC government just doesn't preach about inclusivity. And being a One Guyana, our talks are accompanied by genuine actions. And we are not afraid to come here with our evidence because these numbers, Mr. Speaker, are free from prejudice and bias. So much so that we have many well-known members of the opposition who are furthering their education through GOAL, including, of course, 2 opposition members and Mr. Darren Wade that continues to shoot, again, flatulence. Even though they come here and criticize everything we do, they too benefit from our programs and policies. But I do wish the hypocrisy would end. I wish my colleagues in the opposition would realize that sometimes it is okay to hit the pause on negativity and consciously and support the initiatives that truly benefit our people. Instead, many of them will come here to predictably complain about everything. But let me make it lucidly clear. Guyana is developing at a rapid pace, and to satisfy the growing needs of the labor market, we need to act fast to produce the professionals that are required to take advantage of the growing opportunities. Moreover, the University of Guyana is centralized, and it does not offer online programs. It merely adapts to Zoom classes as a response to the coronavirus pandemic. While the University of Guyana is an excellent institution run by brilliant minds, we acknowledge that it has a far way to go, and the government is committed to providing the requisite support for its advance. That is why more than $3 billion has been allocated to the University of Guyana for its enhancement in the 2023 budget. 3.7. It was conceptualized even before the 2020 elections, Mr. Speaker. That is the Gold Scholarship. Mr. Speaker, in addition to the Gold Scholarship, we continue to invest heavily in the provision of public service scholarships. For 2022, 420 persons were completing their scholarships program at a number of local institutions, including the University of Guyana and Carnegie School of Home Economics. Similarly, 1,221 persons will be continuing their scholarship studies beyond 2022. The training department, Mr. Speaker, as Guyana continues to prepare itself for the many opportunities that will come, it is important that we modernize and train and retrain our public servants to be as effective as possible. This responsibility lies with the training department of the Ministry of Public Service, which was recently revamped and has been functioning effectively to meet the needs of the public service. As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, this year we have reintroduced the monitoring and evaluation system, which will of course assist all ministries and public sector agencies with their budgets and management of their spending. We also have the Center of Excellence for Information Technology, which continues to roll out its information technology program across government agencies, as well as now taking it into the communities. Mocha Arcadia was one of those communities that benefited from the Center of Excellence for Information Technology, where 16 persons graduated from and gained a certificate and were offered jobs with Qual Fund. So it wasn't just, yes. Well, it is more than you would have ever done, Mr. Norton. Mr. Speaker, we not only commit to train, but we commit to providing an income after training. And that is what we have done. Put monies into the pockets of our ordinary Guyanese. Mr. Speaker, with the budgetary allocation that we all have, you will see job creation across the country as we have promised. Mr. Speaker, with this and so much more in the days to come that we will hear, I commend this budget. I fully support this budget. And Mr. Speaker, I believe that it is what this nation needs to grow.